Welcome aboard Skylark Outdoors here. And today we've got a treat for you. We are going to review the Regal 38 SAV and give you a tour. This thing is beautiful inside and out. And one of the things that I love about this boat are just the beautiful lines and colors you can get this in. It's got both side entry and rear entry on this, and this one's outfitted with triple Mercruisers. It's got a total horsepower rating of 1200 horsepower, and this one is outfitted with three 400 horsepower Mercruisers. So let's take a look aboard and see what we've got here. You've got some wood trim accents, but what really excites me is this live well. I love the design of this thing so you can see your bait in there. And this has a layout where you've got the helm and then you have this little station behind the helm that you've got a live well in, you've got a sink in, you can have tackle in there, and then it's got all the accoutrements of a bow rider up here in the front. You can easily fit 6 to 8 people up here, no problem, with a lot of space, and 3 or 4 people could kind of lay out here and really feel pretty comfortable, and plenty of cup holders on this thing as well as rod holders. So this thing is, I guess, a center console with kind of a bow rider layout, but it also has, I guess you could call it a cuddy cabin. And you see right there, that's one of the cool things about this boat. You can turn your helm chairs around so they can face forwards or back. And this is what you get for $939,742. You can see it's got digital touchscreens here for your navigation, engine management. You've got a bow thruster on this, but you've also got the throttle controls and joystick controls like you can get with Mercury engines. So you're going to have an easy time docking with this, with just even the throttle controls and the joystick controls, but you have the bow thruster in addition. And then you've got a couple steps over here on the side. And I think the reason they do that is not only just for accessibility of the boat, but if this is a true fishing platform, there are those times that you kind of got to walk all the way around the boat if you don't want to lose something. So they've got the easy accessible steps right there next to the helm, which I do love to make this a true fishing platform. And then these seats are really comfortable. They've got the baluster rest, and then you've got a place to put your feet as well when you're really cruising. You can stand up on these, or you can sit down, whatever you want to do. You're going to be comfortable. All kinds of graphics here for the Regal, plenty of cup holders, 4 cup holders there. You can see these are touchscreen displays from Garmin, so you can outfit it with all kinds of engine management, radar system, fish finder, whatever you want to input into this, music, you're going to be able to do. So that's pretty cool. Now, this actually does have a cabin down here, which is also pretty nice. So you can go fishing, take a nap, or you can take this fishing and do overnight trips or crossings or whatever you want to do. Stay for a couple days on here, no problem. So you can see this forward berth is pretty cool. You can convert it, move those pillows around as you want. And then you actually have a rear berth as well. Now, the headroom is a little tight in here, but this rear berth, you could fit 2, potentially 3 people in there, because you've got a bench on one side and then kind of like a bed on the other side. And then this has a full head and a separated shower. I like when they have the separated shower, so that's a high-end finish and touch point on this. You've got a little drain there before you enter down into the cabin, which is nice. And then I want to take a look at the back here. You can see you've got kind of this tackle station workstation here. You've got your live well there. I haven't seen a live well in many boats kind of in the midsection of the boat, but I like it. That's kind of cool. You might get some fish stuff everywhere, but not a big deal. You can just wash it down with the wash down, and then you can put a table in here. But there is a ton of room on this thing in the rear for entertaining, hanging out, fishing, whatever you want to do. I love that it's a nice clean space, and then you can fold up that rear seat as well, which is pretty cool. So let's get down to the down and dirty on this and go through some of the specifications. Now, one of the things that you'll see with Regal and on their website, and you can see there's some more speakers and stuff up here, as well as you have this retractable awning, which is really nice for shade in the back. One of the things about Regal on their website is they offer a lot of customization in the layout of these boats and different features you can choose, which I think is different than a lot of manufacturers. You know, a lot of work goes into the hull, um, and the customization around that you can't do much, but topside, really you're not changing that much. If you want to change location of fish box, something like that, make changes up here on the deck from the cabin, and then afterward. They do give you some flexibility in that, which is pretty cool in those layouts. And I like that because a lot of the work goes into everything else. And you could potentially make changes to the layout to better fit you. And they allow you to do some of that and change some of the stuff around, which I really like. As well as it does have 2 berths, which is cool, and plenty of room for entertaining. So this is a serious fishing machine. You could absolutely fish on this, have a great time, but it's also a serious entertaining machine. It's a little bit of everything. And you even got overnight capability and a full shower head set up in the back. The only thing you don't really have is like a big galley, but you've got outdoor galley as possible with like a grill outside, which really is a preference. If you've ever cooked inside of a boat, just a lot of smells and scent and stuff, it's hard to get that smell out of there because there's not always a ton of ventilation, so it probably is better outside. um, and reality is, when you've got a boat this size, you're probably going to go out to eat most of the time anyways, or pack some sandwiches or whatever you're going to do. That's half the fun, is stopping at the places along the way to get something to eat. And in that rare case you're not, take some steaks, throw them in the freezer, and cook them on the grill. You're good to go. You don't need anything crazy there for the galley to make a 5-course meal. You'll be able to do that on a grill and have just as good a time if you had a full galley. The boat overall is 39 foot 3 inches, 11 foot 11 inches wide, 340-gallon fuel capacity. It's yacht certified, so this is a yacht. It's 18,880 pounds, 23-foot draft. 23-inch draft. Sorry, 23-foot draft would be like something like a cargo vessel. It's a 23-inch draft with the engines trimmed up, and I think it says 31-inch draft with the engines down, 60 gallons of water, fresh water, and then 29-gallon holding tank capacity. And then you have a 28.8-gallon diesel capacity for the genset, and then 11-foot 4 for bridge clearance. Now, it's got a diesel generator on here. Diesel generators are generally more reliable, less maintenance, and are going to be more fuel efficient. The only thing that is not great about this is that you're running gas engines, and then you have diesel generators, so that means that you're going to have 2 types of fuels, and there's potential for somebody to screw that up. It happens, which is not great, so just be mindful of that if you get that. But that is, I guess, something nice, as well as generally it is safer to have a diesel genset than a gas genset, just in terms of fuel leakage, vapors, all that stuff, in an enclosed space. Now, all this stuff's supposed to be vented and things like that, but this is outboard engines, so the outboard engines are outboard, so a lot of that risk goes down with having the engines on the stern. Now, you still can have vapors and stuff in the fuel lines and a failure in the fuel tanks in a boat that could lead to leakage and issues, but the sparking source, primarily the engine, and the things that get hot are in the back, with the exception of a genset. So just something to think about. The genset being diesel, I believe that's probably for a safety measure, more fuel efficient, as well as lower maintenance option. But you just have 2 fuels, which is not like my favorite thing, but that's just something that they've got in here. They may have an option for a gas genset, I don't know. You can see that rear seat that folds up, so you can have this as a full fishing platform. You can customize if you want more rod holders, stuff like that. If you want to have rod holders on the tower up there, you can do that as well. But then you would potentially give up, I think, that retractable awning there. So just something to think about. You might want to figure out where you put your rod holders. But it does have a really cool live well. I love that live well, in terms of just being able to watch a bait fish and use it. That's pretty cool. And you can make sure that you got it really clean, and you got to make sure that you get that glass really clean, because you're going to be looking at it right when you step onto the boat. Also, it is nice they have those rear doors on this, or the side doors, so that you could land a fish from the side, which is something people overlook. They think it's all about accessibility, getting in and out of the boat. But if you've got a really large fish, a lot of times it's way easier to pull the fish up on the side of the boat where you have been fighting it than it is at the rear of the boat, where you've got the engines, props, all that stuff that potentially you could snag the line on, while you are pulling a fish in. So in a lot of ways, it is nice to have those side access in terms of getting a fish if you've got a larger fish that you're trying to land, and kind of pull it in the side rather than over the side, which is another thing that can happen in terms of losing a fish or if you've got it gaffed or whatnot. It can take a lot of muscle to get something over the gunnels. First, just pulling it up 6 inches and just kind of sliding it in. And then the captain shores, that's pretty cool. Little feature there, customization, so that if you want to hang out with people behind you when you're at anchor, or even I guess when you're driving, if you have one forward and you have the other ones facing back, so you can hang out with people. And then you can see here on the top, it's got glass roof. This one's outfitted with a camera. I'm not sure if this one had the FLIR camera on it, but you can definitely option these things out, have the thermal cameras, night vision cameras, all that stuff on there, or just more like a security camera, see what's going on. But those are potential options on this. Overall, this thing is a beast. In terms of what you have as a boat, this thing would crush heavy seas. Plenty of horsepower. I do like that they went with the 400s, the three 400s on this, rather than the 600 horsepower twins. I'm a big fan of just the 400 and under Mercury racing or Mercury engines, whether that be Mercury engines standard or the racing engines, just because you're going to find more people that work on that, the serviceability, more parts availability. They're more just ubiquitous engines than the larger 600s, as well as lower weight and lower cost per engine. So if you have one go bad or something like that, you can get that replaced, and you could probably get it replaced relatively quickly. And just it's an inevitability with things boating related that things will break and fail. It's just a matter of time. So having things that you can get switched out very easily, that are easy to fix, that are going to have a lot of parts to be able to fix whatever you need wherever you're at. Can be really helpful. And that's something people don't think about. If you're just on one body of water and stay near one area, not a big deal. But if you're taking this all over the place, what you'll find is not everybody has the same level of service and parts departments and things like that. And once you start to get further out or you've done a crossing, having something that's more standard, that you can get more standard parts for, that people are familiar with, can be a real blessing to maintain the vehicle or your boat and be able to get in and out and get things fixed really quickly. So that's just something that I like. They call that little countertop in the back that's got the grill and the bait box in it. That's called the refreshment island on this. They call it a wraparound swim platform because it goes all the way to the side of the engines. And then actually that stair, not only is it for being able to have access all around the boat, but I didn't even think about this. If you've got a higher dock, which a lot of places do just because of tides and water levels and stuff, it allows you to have another higher access point up and on and off the boat for docking, which actually makes a lot of sense and it's pretty cool. I like that. I didn't even think about that. This thing's actually outfitted with digital switching and multicolor lighting, so you can light this thing up at night. And I'm just on the website here, so I'd recommend you should check that out. Pretty cool. Going through some of the different features, 22-inch displays. You've got a companion screen behind, up above that refreshment station. And then you can get sea keepers on these, so that's going to cut down on your roll and make it just more comfortable while you are driving this boat. But overall, it is a pretty cool boat in terms of what you're getting, and something just I think innovative from Regal. In terms of what we've seen them in the past. I mean, I think a lot of people think about a Regal boat and they think about your lake cruiser, kind of intermediate boat in terms of uh, something that you might just go out, go water skiing behind, wakeboard behind, and they definitely have those types of boats. And they've had a lot of like cabin cruisers in the past, which are really beautiful and were their bread and butter in the 1990s, 2000s, stuff like that of their higher end, larger boats. But I like this trend where we're getting away from the large cabins, and you have still a cabin to sleep in, but there's more deck space. You've got the bow rider deck space, you've got the rear deck space, and you've got a fishing platform. If you've ever been in the cabin cruisers that were really popular from, I don't know, the 90s to the 2000s and even into the mid 2000s, like 2010, maybe 2015, you realize that those cabins don't get used that much and they take up a ton of real estate on the boat, and they make the boat infinitely more heavy and they handle worse. And just in terms of they're top heavy, they have a lot of they have a big wind profile that allows them to get pushed around when you're docking them. Versus something like this has less of a wind profile. Plus, you got the joystick and the bow thruster. But what you also lose out on is fuel efficiency. If you were to look at a cabin cruiser that was 38 feet 10 years ago, that has most of the same features. The only difference is that you would have probably a slightly bigger front cabin and rear cabin, but you would have a galley downstairs. When you look at those things were gas hogs. All the cabin cruisers, for the most part, were gas hogs, and they really had to be up on plane, and you had to be pretty close to wide open throttle or like 4,500 RPMs a lot of times on V8s, twin V8s or triple V8s, whatever it was, to get these things really moving and moving well. And even then, they still just were sucking down gas and felt handling wise heavy because they were heavy boats, and their hull shape to accommodate the cabins were as such, as well as just what was going on there. And then you always had this awkwardness, kind of the transition between where the helm was and usually like a front layout on a cabin cruiser. It just was awkward. People would have to walk over like 3 or 4 stairs, or the hatch that would go down to the cabins a lot of times would have the steps on it or the steps right next to it, and people would fall into those, or just it was a mess. Versus something like this where you can walk all the way around very easily in any type of seas, and something that I think that for the boat industry is overall really nice. They were going to more boats that have a lot of entertaining space, fishing space, and then you still do have a cabin for when you really want it. But what you realize is that the cabins are going to get used very rarely. Maybe a night here or there where you just been out in the sun too long and you want to sleep it off, wake up the next morning. But for the most part, if you're at your home port, there's nothing like being at home. And if you're going to do an extended stay on a boat, really, you've got to you want a boat that's going to be really comfortable for that. And even a cabin cruiser was not really comfortable for that. An extended cruise for anything more than 2 people. And sailboats kind of are the same way. If you've been on extended cruises, you realize like the night you just want more and more space, and then it's you lose out when you go for more space. You lose out on speed and things like that. And if you've been on a sailboat on a long trip, let's say you've been on a sailboat for a month or so, what you start to realize is that you just want a boat that goes fast to get from point A to point B, because you will spend a lot of time. And it's not just about the time, it's about spending time in weather, in adverse conditions, or if you get to a place and it's bad conditions, or for whatever reason you're just not having a good time at a port and you want to leave. It can be one of those things that you just kind of look at and you're like, oh gosh, we got to do a crossing here, and the time that it's going to take to get there, and can almost be dreadful. Versus if you've got something like this that has a top speed of 50 miles an hour in a day, you can get anywhere you want to go. And in a couple hours, you can usually get anywhere you want to go. You can be 100 miles away in 2 hours, which is a beautiful thing. So this has a top speed of 50 mile an hour, um, and it has a cruising speed of 31 miles per hour at 4,000 RPM. And then it has a fuel burn of 38.4 gallons of fuel at 31 miles per hour. So let's say you want to go 100 miles and you're at cruising speed, you're going to burn about a little bit over 100 gallons of fuel to go about 100 miles, 140 gallons of fuel. So no problem there. You could definitely go, I don't know, somewhere in the 200 range, upper 200s probably, depending on how you did your fuel management in this boat. You've got 200 miles of range, so just something nice to know. And you've got plenty of space on board and on deck. If you wanted to add a fuel bladder for a longer crossing or something like that, you could definitely do it on this. But hope you enjoy this review and tour of the Regal 38 SAV. We've enjoyed you being here, and check out the links in the description below, and we'll see you next time.